Are you looking to take your French beyond the basic beginner level? Are you ready to create more sophisticated French sentences and learn to express yourself in French just as well as you do in English? Well, you are in the right place. I have spent years creating videos to help you get better at speaking and understanding real everyday French. But maybe you don't have the time to sift through my hundreds of videos to find the best ones for you. So in today's video, I am going to introduce you to some of my best intermediate French lessons from 2022 so you can take your French to the next level in just 30 minutes. C'est parti! If you love architecture, you absolutely must visit Paris at least once in your life. From the Gothic style of the Middle Ages all the way to the contemporary super-modernist buildings, the city features architecture from just about every period imaginable. Maybe you can't roam the streets of Paris and see these marvels for yourself right now. So, in the meantime, I thought I would take you on a virtual journey so you can see and learn about some of our most beautiful monuments from the comfort of your own home. And as always, we will do some learning on the way. I've woven an important grammar lesson in today's video, so you can learn how to properly use the adjectives in French at the same time. Sounds like fun? C'est parti! Le Musée du Louvre is a good window into Parisian architecture. With roots in antiquity, it was une forteresse médiévale. Une forteresse médiévale. A fortress in the Middle Ages. Un palais royal, un palais royal, a royal palace during the Renaissance, and now un musée moderne, a modern museum with a striking glass pyramid. Just like Le Louvre, Paris is a city rich in history and architecture from different eras. It's almost as complex as French grammar. Today we'll take a special look at les adjectifs, the adjectives, and when to place them before or after the noun. And we can start with our first rule. Most adjectives are placed after the noun. For instance, remember, une forteresse médiévale, un palais royal, un musée moderne. That is our general rule of thumb for adjectives. So let's take a quick virtual tour together of Paris and its architecture. And why not go backwards through times for once? When walking around Paris, you will see many modern buildings and monuments like des hauts gratte-ciel, tall skyscrapers. Mainly in the business neighborhood of La Défense, where sits la Grande Arche de la Défense, la Grande Arche de la Défense. In the 70s and 80s in particular, there was a boom for des nouveaux monuments, new monuments such as le Centre Pompidou, the Museum of Modern Art, or la Bibliothèque nationale François Mitterrand. La Bibliothèque nationale François Mitterrand with its towers of giant open books. It is all contemporary architecture made with du béton et du verre. Du béton et du verre, concrete and glass. It is massive, it is ambitious, and we will see how it stands the test of time. Did you notice our second rule, by the way? Small adjectives can be placed before the noun. In particular, jeune et vieux, young and old. You can see that in une jeune fille, a young girl, une jeune fille, and un vieux livre, an old book, un vieux livre. We also have petit et grand, small and big, as in un petit moment, and la grande arche de la défense. But also nouveau and ancien, new and old, can be placed before a noun, as in un nouveau monument, a new monument, un nouveau monument, and un ancien musée, a former museum. But that's a spoiler. Let's get back now to l'architecture parisienne. L'architecture parisienne, Parisian architecture. In the late 19th century and early 20th century, Paris is the one heart of the Industrial Revolution. It is la belle époque. La belle époque, literally the beautiful era before the First World War. And yes, as you noticed, beau and belle are small adjectives that come before a noun. Did you see that? That's around the time that they built La Tour Eiffel, La Tour Eiffel in 1889. And that is now the most famous silhouette over le ciel bleu, the blue sky in Paris. But also la basilique du Sacré-Cœur de Montmartre, la basilique du Sacré-Cœur de Montmartre in 1870 with ses tours rondes, ses tours rondes, its round towers. In Parisian streets, you can also find buildings in the style of L'Art Nouveau from around the 1900s. Again, it is a time of technological progress and optimism, so they tried a lot of different things. And here we have rule 1.5. Some adjectives tend to stay after the noun, even if they're small. In particular, the adjectives of color, as in le ciel bleu, the blue sky, of form, des tours rondes, round towers, and nationality, religion or city, as in l'architecture parisienne, Parisian architecture. Now, other adjectives can come after or before a noun, most of them even. But these three kinds of adjectives of color, form, and nationality are practically always placed after the noun. One adjective that can switch, though, is nouveau for new. Compare, for instance, l'art nouveau, new art in the 1900s, and la nouvelle vague, the new wave in the 60s. Moving backwards in time again, we reach the kings of Parisian architecture, which are les immeubles haussmanniens, They were built between 1853 and 1870 under Napoleon III. He was the second French emperor. The prefect Haussmann was tasked to change the look of Paris, to open its streets to make it more modern, healthier, harder to stage yet another popular revolution, and leave the empire's mark on the capital. And it worked. Nowadays, you can see them everywhere in Paris. These buildings with les longs balcons métalliques, and les façades sculptées et décorées, and quelques impressionnantes statues historiques ou mythologiques. And with that, we can reach our third rule. When you have a noun with two adjectives, they can be placed both after the noun by using a word like et for and, or ou for or another coordination, as in une façade sculptée et décorée. Or they can be placed on both sides of a noun, as in un long balcon métallique, a long metal balcony, un long balcon métallique. And if there is more, it can be both, as in quelques impressionnantes statues historique ou mythologique. A few impressive statues from history or mythology. Quelques impressionnantes statues historiques ou mythologiques. By the way, here, as you saw, I placed impressionnante before the noun. Why? Because it is a synonym of beau, and those synonyms of beau can often be placed this way. It is the same with magnifique, for instance. They follow the same rule as beau. And now we arrive in the 18th century, the time of both l'Ancien Régime, and le siècle des Lumières, the Enlightenment. And it is the time of le Panthéon, that was built between 1750 and 1781. If it looks like a Roman monument, it is because it is in the style of le néoclassicisme. Le néoclassicisme, when people in power enjoyed building new Roman monuments all over the country, like l'église de la Madeleine that you might know, for instance. What's interesting about Le Panthéon is its function. Since the French Revolution, it is a cemetery for celebrated people. And at the top of it, there is a famous mention, aux grands hommes la patrie reconnaissante, to the great men a grateful fatherland, aux grands hommes la patrie reconnaissante. Now, obviously, they didn't think about great women in a regrettable oversight. Nowadays, some women are in Le Panthéon, though they're still very, very underrepresented. The latest person to be pantheonized was Joséphine Baker this year. But I mainly wanted to use this mention to illustrate rule number 4. Some adjectives can be placed before or after a noun. However, their meaning changes depending on their position. For instance, aux grands hommes, as we just saw, aux grands hommes, it means to the great men, but aux hommes grands means to the tall men. Generally, in that type of double meaning, the adjective is taken more literally when it comes after the noun. It is more poetic or metaphorical when it comes before the noun. The most famous case is un homme grand and un grand homme, but you also get that with pauvre, for instance. It can mean poor, sad, pitiful, or poor without money. Mon pauvre ami is my poor friend, but mon ami pauvre is my friend who is poor. It also works with ancien. We have ma maison ancienne, my house which is old, and mon ancienne maison, which is my former house, my previous house. And that's really the fun part, because if you make a mistake with the other rules, you will only sound a bit strange, but here it can even lead to misunderstandings. French grammar is actively trying to trick you. And finally, let's go back to Paris for one last trip to les plus vieux monuments de Paris. Obviously, you have la majestueuse cathédrale de Notre-Dame de Paris. La majestueuse cathédrale de Notre-Dame de Paris. A majestic cathedral from the Middle Ages that sadly suffered a fire in 2019 and is now being repaired. But there is even older than that, though. It is les arènes de Lutèce. Les arènes de Lutèce. It is an amphitheater from back when the city was called Lutèce under the government of l'Empire Romain. L'Empire Romain, the Roman Empire. And there is even older in Paris. Un monument ancien that was built when the people in France were still in the Bronze Age. And it is, can you guess? l'obélisque de la Concorde, l'obélisque de la Concorde. This one comes from an Egyptian temple built around 1000 BC and was brought to France by Napoleon I. And now that we reached the deepest history of Paris together, let's review our rules on adjectives. Really, they're more like guidelines, like most French grammar rules. So we have rule number 1. Most adjectives come after the noun, especially for color, form, and nationality. For example, l'Empire Romain, the Roman Empire, l'Empire Romain. Rule number 2. Small adjectives tend to come before the noun. For example, les plus vieux monuments, the oldest monuments, les plus vieux monuments. Something else, when you're comparing with les plus and then adjective, the most, or les moins, an adjective, the less, we use similar rules. For example, with an adjective for a form, we would place it after the noun, like les monuments les plus triangulaires. Les monuments les plus triangulaires, the most triangular monuments. Rule number 3. With two adjectives, they can come on both sides of a noun or be placed on the same side with a coordination, et, ou, etc. For instance, un vieux monument volé, an old stolen monument, or un monument vieux mais volé, a monument that is old but stolen. We wouldn't say un monument vieux volé. This wouldn't work. And finally, rule number 4. Some adjectives can change meaning if they come before or after a noun. And after is a more literal meaning. Par exemple, la cathédrale ancienne, the ancient cathedral, is not the same as l'ancienne cathédrale, the former cathedral. And yes, just like Paris, French grammar really is a mess with a long history and a natural evolution based on how people are using it and several rewrites that tried to make it simple but added even more complexity to it. And sometimes that's why it makes for a fun visit. So you want to tell your French conversation group all about what you did last weekend. Or maybe you want to write an email to the friends that you made on your last visit to France, updating them about what's been happening in your life. On both situations, you're talking about le passé, the past, which means that you're probably wondering, which grammatical tense am I supposed to use? Is it le passé composé? Is it l'imparfait or le passé simple? Find out once and for all with today's lesson. So let's say you have a friend who's been to France recently. How can you talk about it in French? First, you need a tense for the past, but is it l'imparfait, elle allait en France? Or le passé composé, elle est allée en France? Le passé simple, maybe, elle alla en France, or even le passé récent, elle vient d'aller en France. Which one is it? Well, it's going to depend on the situation, but some of these are more correct than others. Let's start with the easy answer. Le passé récent and le passé simple. Le passé récent is literally the recent past, le passé récent. It is using venir de plus infinitif. Venir de plus infinitif. It is for something that just happened. We use it a lot every time we mean I just did something. For instance, je viens de marcher. I just walked. Je viens de marcher. Repeat after me. Je viens de marcher. Again, je viens de marcher. One more time, je viens de marcher. Good. It is particularly present in spoken French since written French can cover a long time between the time you write something and the time someone reads it. But it is not slang or familiar French either. I made a full lesson about it. You'll find the link at the end of today's video. On the other side of the spectrum, we have le passé simple. Le passé simple only really appears in written French. Passé simple is funny because it means simple past, passé simple, literally, but it is far from simple. You probably remember it from school. A few decades ago, maybe, it is nous fûmes, for example. Nous fûmes for we were, or vous fîtes for you did. This tense is never, ever used in modern spoken French. Yes, you might still find it in books, especially old books.
Jacques, vous fîtes là une belle chose. Jacques, vous fîtes là une belle chose.
Or sometimes in songs or poetry.
Nous fûmes toutes deux élevées par maman.
Or in a period piece. But they're either old, poetic, or very formal. No, in real, everyday spoken French, the tenses that we use the most are le passé composé and l'imparfait. L'imparfait is used for habits or long actions in the past. We find it in something like je marchais, I was walking, or I used to walk. Je marchais, je marchais. It is basically a past continuous term with was plus ing. It is roughly the same. We'll cover a few more examples about l'imparfait in a minute, but let's take a moment to look at its very simple conjugation. It is basically the root of the verb and then the sound est. So for the verb to walk, we have je marchais. Je marchais for I was walking. Repeat after me. You can notice here that the S at the end of marchais is silent. Repeat after me. Je marchais. Again, je marchais. Then we have tu marchais. You were walking. Tu marchais. Again, notice that the S at the end of marchais is silent again. Repeat after me. Tu marchais. Again, tu marchais. Then we have elle marchait. She was walking, and here we have a silent T at the end of marchait. Elle marchait. Again, elle marchait. You can notice here, as I said, that it's just like adding the sound E at the end and it kind of works. Then we have nous marchions. Ooh, here as you noticed, the E was replaced by a yon sound with a nasal on. Nous marchions. Repeat after me. Nous marchions. The S is silent again. Nous marchions. Good. Then we have vous marchiez. Again, here as you can notice, the E sound that I mentioned at the beginning is replaced by a Y sound with the silent Z. Vous marchiez. Again, vous marchiez. And at the end, elle marchait. Elle marchait, they used to walk. Here, if you're not familiar with this conjugation, ENT at the end are silent. Repeat after me. Elle marchait. Again, elle marchait. Good. And that's it for almost all the verbs. Simple, right? Well, it is simple for a French conjugations. So the endings are, for je, it is est. For tu, est. For il, it is est. For nous, it is yon. For vous, it is ye. And for il, it is est. Now let's get back to our final tense. It is le passé composé. The question is, when should you use it? Well, it is used to describe specific actions that take place at a precise time. Unfortunately, sometimes it can be confused with l'imparfait. Think of it as the difference between the English simple past and the continuous past. For le passé composé, for example, we can say j'ai vécu en France en 2012. I lived in France in 2012. That's the translation. And then for l'imparfait, en 2012, je vivais en France. In 2012, I was living in France. That's the main technique that you can quickly use to decide whether to use le passé composé or l'imparfait. Le passé composé is a French tense to talk about the past, and it looks like the English present perfect, but even though they share the same structure, it is not used in the same way. It is closer to the past simple in English. You know, like j'ai marché, that would translate into I walked. It is very, very common in both written and especially spoken French. Le passé composé is called composé, literally compound past, because it is made of two parts. We have first l'auxiliaire, the auxiliary word that can be être, to be, or avoir, to have. And we have le participe passé, the past participle, le participe passé. For example, je suis allé en France. I went to France. Je suis allé en France. Or, j'ai acheté un souvenir. I bought a souvenir. J'ai acheté un souvenir. Here we have the auxiliary être with je suis, and the one avoir with j'ai. And then we have the past participles with aller and acheter. The passé composé is not hard, but it can be intimidating. French school children can take a long time to master this tense when they first learn about it. But I believe in you, and this is not the confusing part yet. Especially since it is so close to the present perfect in its construction. No, the confusing part will come next week in a lesson all about le passé composé with its conjugation, its exceptions, and lots of special cases. Let's go into detail now. Le passé composé is used for actions in the past with a very clear starting point and or a clear ending point, even if it's not explicitly mentioned. For example, nous sommes partis en vacances. We went on holiday. So there was a day when we packed our bags and left home to go on holiday. Or j'ai commencé à apprendre le français au collège. I started to learn French when I was in middle school. You have a clear starting point. Sometimes le passé composé is used to cut a longer action that is in l'imparfait, especially with quand. Quand means when in French. There's a silent D at the end and the U is silent as well. Quand. For example, je dormais quand tu as appelé. I was sleeping when you called. I was sleeping, je dormais is a long action. It is in l'imparfait. Quand tu as appelé, that's the shorter action. Quand tu as appelé, this is at le passé composé. Je dormais quand tu as appelé. Another example, quand elle a commencé, elle était optimiste. When she started, she was optimistic. Quand elle a commencé, that is the short time, so that's at le passé composé. Quand elle a commencé, elle était optimiste. This is the longer time. Elle était optimiste. L'imparfait is used, as we said, for longer actions and habits in the past. But the confusing part, unfortunately, is that le passé composé can be used that way as well. The difference is blurry, but it is all about your intent. For example, j'écoutais beaucoup cette chanson en 2004. I was listening to that song a lot in 2004. J'écoutais beaucoup cette chanson en 2004. We have an imparfait here. And the idea is that I was a big fan then. The other option here for the tense is j'ai beaucoup écouté cette chanson en 2004. I listened to that song a lot in 2004. And here the idea is that now it's done. I listened to it so much, but that's over now. I am done. Another example with the two tenses. Il y a 2 ans, tu allais en France. Il y a 2 ans, tu allais en France. Here we have an imparfait. 2 years ago, you were going to France. So the meaning here is exactly 2 years ago, you were on your way between here and France. Remember? So you think about the travel and all on this precise time 2 years ago. So let's use le passé composé now. Il y a 2 ans, tu es allé en France. Il y a 2 ans, tu es allé en France. You went to France 2 years ago. Here the content is that now it's done, but that happened at time. You went on this trip to France. We're thinking about the whole trip, but now it's over. I'm not thinking about anything in particular. Bravo! You can continue exploring French culture and French language with me with another lesson on the same topic. Click right here on your screen to access the next video and I will see you there. Allez, à tout de suite!